Hey everyone, it's Bethany. Welcome back. This week is week 5, and as promised, this week we are going to be exploring Infusible ink. If you've never used Infusible ink, it is a really fun product to use, and you can do a lot of different crafts with it. In the video today, I'm going to be sharing how you can do a t-shirt, but I do have other videos on how to do coasters and tote bags, and also little zip bags that you can use for pencils or for makeup. Those are really cute as well. So all of those other videos for other products that you can do with Infusible ink will all be in the description box below the video. Don't forget to also share what you're making this week with Infusible ink, and be sure to use the hashtag Bethadilly Inspired. That way we can see what you are creating in your own craft room this week and what inspired you. I am so happy all of you are having so much fun with this summer challenge. It has been so much fun to put together, and I can't wait to continue with you this week. Go ahead and give this a thumbs up if you are ready to start week 5, and let's go ahead and explore Infusible ink. Okay, this is a really fun product to use, and I want to mention really quickly that you can do more than just t-shirts. You can also do coasters, you can do little makeup pouches, you can do tote bags. There's a variety of things that you can do with the Infusible ink. Now, you do need to make sure that the blank that you're using, whether it's a tote bag or a coaster, you need to make sure that that is compatible with Infusible ink, because it does have a specific coating on it, or it is a specific material that will allow it to accept the Infusible ink. So make sure that you do your research on that. But if you want other videos on how to do the coasters and the bags, then check in the description box below this video, and I will link all of the videos that I have done using this product. That way, if you want to use Infusible ink this week and take this fun challenge with us, then you still can, but you can do other things other than a shirt. But for me today, I'm going to do a little baby bodysuit. I think this is so fun. And I have this really fun true yellow color. They also have really neat patterns as well, but I'm gonna do something really fun and summery. So let's go ahead and head on into Cricut Design Space and get everything all ready to go. But actually, let's open and get a measurement for how big I want my design to be. Now, you do not need to use the Cricut blanks, though you cannot just use this on any shirt, okay? You need to make sure that the shirt has a high polyester count so that the shirt and material will accept the Infusible ink. Okay, so I want to make sure that I answer that question because I know I'll get asked that. Oh, look how teeny tiny this is. Isn't this cute? Okay, so we will worry about all of these little things on the surface in a little bit, but let me grab my little ruler here, and I just want to get an idea for the size. I think I will do, let's do 5 inches. I think that'll be nice. Okay, between 4.5 and 5 inches. Okay, let's go ahead now that we have an idea for how big we want our design. Let's head into Design Space and get the design all prepped. Okay, here in Cricut Design Space, I'm just in the canvas, and what I'm going to do is use an image that I have uploaded into Design Space. So I'm going to come over to Upload. It's that second from the bottom button on the left, and I'm going to select this right here. This is a fun little design called Pool Hair Don't Care. I think it's so fun, and I'm going to add it to my canvas. So once it pulls the design into Design Space, I'm going to size it. So I was thinking I would hover around 4.5 to 5 inches. So let's just do 4.75, and I just added that right up into the width section using my keyboard. I'll select Enter, and then it will automatically adjust my height. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and select everything, make sure that it's attached. That way everything cuts out in the exact area that you see it on the screen, and we don't have to get random pieces cut out and then reapply them on our little shirt. That would make for quite the puzzle. Okay, so now we have everything attached and we're ready to cut. It's really that easy. So let's go ahead and make sure we have the correct machine selected. I'm using the Explorer 3, so I'm going to verify that that machine is selected. If not, you'll just use this drop down arrow and select the machine you're using, and then I will select Make It. Now we have a preview of our mat, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the left-hand side and make sure that I toggle this button on because I want to mirror my image. So I want to make sure that mirror button is on, and as you can see, it flipped my image right on my mat preview. Now I will go ahead and say continue, and then once it is connected to my Cricut machine, I can tell it the material we will be cutting it out on. Okay, now that we are ready to go, we can go ahead and select our Infusible ink transfer sheet. So I'll go ahead and select that. And we are ready. So nothing is required in clamp A, but in clamp B, we'll need our fine point blade, and then we'll be all ready to go. I'm gonna come back and just make sure that the mirror is turned on. It's worth double checking so you don't waste product. And if that doesn't make sense to you now on why we're going to mirror it, it's because of how we're going to load the material, which is the Infusible ink, on our cutting mat. And you'll see that in just a little bit. So hang tight if that's confusing with the whole mirror concept, but you'll see why that's super important in just a bit. All right, let's load our mat and get our design cut out. Okay, first and foremost, I'm going to grab just a little knife here and open up my Infusible ink. Okay, brand new box. Okay, now, before you open up the inside where the product is, you want to make sure that you have really clean hands. So make sure you wash your hands. You want to make sure that you also really dry your hands. You don't want to have any wet hands. And why you want to wash them really good is you want to remove all the oils from your hands because it can disrupt the ink on these sheets and you don't want to smudge the ink. So go ahead and make sure your hands are not only really, really washed, but also dry. Okay, now I'm going to open this up as well. And it's important that you keep this wrap because once you are done and if you have any extra material, you'll want to place it right back inside of this black little wrap because it will help preserve the transfer sheets until you want to use them again. Okay, so it's kind of a little protective sheet. Now, when we bring out our sheet, you're going to see a few things. First of all, we have a little sample piece of fabric in case you wanted to test the color or in case you wanted to do a little practice. That's completely fair to do. We have some instruction sheets, and you also will want to use the Cricut heat guide so that you know what time and temperature to do this all on, but I'm gonna walk you through that. We also have a little decusant packet that keeps the moisture out of the product, so you wanna keep that so that you can put it back in your tube. All right, so now these are the actual sheets and the color is ink. And one thing that you'll want to note about the color, oops, we also have some butcher paper here, which I forgot to talk about, but you have butcher paper that's included as well. Okay, the product itself is much paler than it's going to turn out. So as you can see, it's kind of a nice, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like a little duckling or something. I don't even know, but it reminds me of a little baby chick or something. It's very, very nice and pale, nice spring color, but it's going to take on that bold vibrancy once it's heated. So the color that you see in person is going to be different than what it's actually going to turn out like. Okay, I'm going to roll these back up, place them back into my little protective sleeve here. That way they're nice and preserved until I want to use the additional sheet. And I'll have plenty of product left over that I'll put back in here as well once I'm doing this cut. Okay, and I'm gonna make sure that decusant goes right back in. I don't need the instructions, but I'll also just keep this just in case. Okay, now we're ready to load our mat. Okay, I'm actually gonna use my purple mat because it has a lot of stick to it and I want to make sure that this lays down really, really flat because it's in a nice roll that's pretty tight. So I think you can also use the the standard grip mat, which is green. But I'm going to opt for a little bit more because I don't think my standard grip mat in its current state is quite is quite sticky enough. So what I'm going to do is I am going to place this on my mat. Now the other side, it has a little transfer carrier sheet. You want that side down and you want the ink side up. And I'm going to make sure that it's nice and flat right on my mat. Okay, and again, make sure your hands are clean and dry. That way you don't smudge the ink. All right, that is as easy as it is to load the mat. This is also why we mirrored our image, because we have it ink side up, and you'll see that in a little bit, but once we have it cut out and we're ready to apply it on their shirt, then we're gonna flip it again. So flipping it again, it's all gonna make sense in just a little bit. Hold tight. Now let's go ahead and, whoops, we need to open up our machine first, and then I'll load my mat. There we go. And now it's just going to measure my mat, make sure that we're all set to go. And then right off camera, there's a little flashing play button. I'll just select that to start. Okay, it's all done. I will select the flashing arrows to unload my mat. And now we are ready to take the Infusible ink sheet off of the cutting mat. So what is important here is that you don't pull it. You don't want to damage the material, especially with a strong grip mat. So what I'm going to do is flip it over, and I'm going to bend that mat. This has a lot of stick, but I'm going to bend that away, and I'm going to make sure that my Infusible ink stays as flat as possible. Okay. Now, I'm going to find my design right up in the corner here, and I am simply going to cut around it. That way I can save the rest of my ink sheet. A little bit more. Oops, I've gotten something on that little bit. That's okay. All right. Probably make sure that my surface is really clean too. Okay, now what I need to do is start weeding my design. So before I do that, I am going to bring in my little easy press here, and I am going to get it all ready and prepped for time and temp. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. And then for the temperature, I'm going to select the temperature icon, and I am going to place that at 385. And then for the time, I am going to place that at 40 seconds. So I'm just going to hold that down. There we go. For 40 seconds. Okay, this is kind of an orangey red color. And once it turns green, it will also chime and let you know that we have reached the temperature that we selected. So far we are all ready to go, and we'll just wait for that to heat up while we are getting this all weeded. Now, unlike other material, we are not going to use a weeding tool. You can, I'm not saying that you can't, but if you decide to, you'll want to be really gentle, because you can actually scratch the ink with the little pokey end. So you want to make sure that you don't scratch the ink if you decide to use it. But I just use my hands, and I'll show you how to do it. So before we begin weeding, I'm just going to roll the design, and you'll kind of hear a little kind of cracking sound. Sometimes you don't as much, but you're just kind of loosening the design up, right? Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little corner, because I want to remove any part of the design that I don't want on my little baby bodysuit. So let me grab and get this started. There we go. And, oh, there we go. Chimed. Now we want to go slow and make sure that we don't accidentally tear or bring up any of the design that we actually want to keep. So I'm going to nudge a couple pieces down. There we go. And this little clear backer is sticky, and that's what's allowing the little ink sheets to stay in place there. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to go around this little design here and remove all of my background. Okay, almost done. Now, if you have some of the ink, and you can keep this, you could do a really fun design with this as well, because you can keep this and press it onto a little project. But if you have little pieces of kind of ripped paper, that is okay. As long as it doesn't have any ink on it, it won't transfer. But sometimes you'll have just a little bit of leftover. Now you can very gently, again, you don't want to scratch your ink, but you can, if you want, if it's bothering you, you can remove that. But as long as it doesn't have ink on it, then it's not going to interfere with your design at all. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it because it's going to be just fine. So now I just need to take out the little letters here. So I'm going to very gently just come in, and you can of course keep these letters and do another fun design with them. I need to very gently encourage a piece to stay down. There are some thin little middle pieces here. There we go. Okay. And again, you just kind of bend that little transfer backer sheet and then just peel these little pieces out. Peel and pop them out. Okay, so I'm going to finish just taking all of these little letters out. See how I have that first little line done? Okay, and again, because I don't have ink on these little pieces, it's completely fine. Okay, and then if you have any pieces that you accidentally remove, like I had a little in the middle of this A, you can just go ahead and place it right back on that paper because it's sticky. And just nudge it right into place. Okay, I am all done. Again, you can keep all of these little letters if you would like to do another project with them. I'm personally not going to, but that is an option. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my heat press mat and also some heat tape. So let's bring in our little baby bodysuit. Okay, and we are going to do this step by step. This is so easy and so fun. The first thing that we want to do is we want to open up the bottom of the bodysuit, and we are just going to take a piece of cardstock and place it inside. I want to make sure my cardstock is big enough though. You want to make sure that it's bigger than your design. And the reason why we are doing this is because we want to prevent the ink from going through the shirt and transferring on the back. So we're creating a little barrier here between the front and the back of the shirt that will protect the back of the shirt. We don't want a back side with our design on it. Okay, and then just center it where you'd like it. That way it's definitely going to cover the design. Okay, so that looks great. And now with a clean lint roller, so I'm going to remove the sheet that was currently on it. I want to make sure it's very clean. I am going to lint roll, let me move this, the top of this shirt. Now the reason we do this is to not only remove any barrier between the ink and the shirt, but if you don't lint roll and lint remains on the shirt, you will see little blue dots appear once you press your design. And you know what? I can lint roll and lint roll and lint roll until kingdom come. And I find that I still get blue dots. Not a lot. And sometimes I have to search for them, but you know, don't get discouraged if you see one because they're kind of hard to avoid sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to do that once more. All right, now I'm going to flatten that back out. And I am going to grab a clean piece of butcher paper, and I'm just going to use that butcher paper that came in my little infusible ink box, okay? So it comes with a sheet there. So I'm going to lay that down over my bodysuit, and then I'm going to preheat my bodysuit for 15 seconds, okay? And just hovering over the little area that I will be placing my design. So I'm going to preheat that. Okay, 40 minus 15 is 25, so we are good to go there. Oh, it might not let me stop counting down. Okay, that's fine. Whoops, maybe we can do that. There we go. Okay, place that back over here. Now we're going to remove our butcher paper. Okay, make sure this is nice and aligned in here. And now we're going to center our design. Okay, so I'm just going to center this where I'd like it. I like to go farther up on the neckline for little baby shirts. So about an inch from that collar. And then lay it down just like that. Okay, looks pretty good. Okay, now if you need to further secure your design, now this is, again, this is a sticky little transfer here. If you need to tape it down, then there is a heat-resistant tape that you can use. Make sure that you do use a heat-resistant tape if you need to further get your design to lay down, because you don't want regular tape to melt or ruin your project or ruin your machine. Okay, now that that has laid down, I am going to, oh, before I do that though, that is an example, that's a very visual example right there on why we mirrored the image, because now when we flipped it back this way, now you can read the words, and of course they're a little hard to read right now, but you'll see once we press it on the shirt, but the words will be going in the right direction. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and place my butcher paper right back on. And I'm going to place my heat press right over my design. Now, something important here that I want you to note is that you do not want to move or have any movement during your press. So it does call for a firm pressure, but you want to make sure that you aren't moving from side to side or your ink will smear. So you want to be just very gentle here. So when you bring your press over, you're going to bring it over. I'm going to make sure that I get in the right spot here. Okay, bring it over, place it down, and then press and start. Okay, and I'm going to do firm pressure at 385 degrees Fahrenheit for 40 seconds. And I'm just going to lay a firm hand, little muscle in there. If you have a heat press, I have a heat press. The heat press is wonderful for this type of product because you're not having any movement and the heat press has firm pressure. But I decided to use the Easy Press. That way you can see how this works. It's super easy. Okay, now once I go to remove the press, I'm going to make sure that I lift it up. I don't want to shift from left to right. I want to go straight up. Okay, and then return it to my cradle base. Okay, there we go. All right, so now you just remove that butcher paper. Now, if you don't have any ink on your butcher paper, you can reuse it. But if you have, for some reason, ink that transfers over to your butcher paper, you do need to toss it, because if there's any ink on the butcher paper, once you go to reuse it on another project, that ink will transfer to your next project. So just double check that your butcher paper is indeed clean before you decide to reuse it. Okay, so this does say to remove the liner when warm. Still pretty hot. Let's just take that off. Okay. Oh my goodness. So you see how vibrant that is now, right? Isn't that neat? It's so vibrant. And if you have any little pieces that don't want to come up, you can use tweezers, but my tweezers have have walked to the other side of my craft room, so I'm just gonna use a little weeding tool and grab that little piece up. Okay, there you go. So there is how you use infusible ink. I should have said this earlier, but you also want to make sure, and Cricut does a good job of saying this as well, you want to make sure that you are in a well-ventilated room. It kind of is pretty fragrant. It's not overly fragrant, but if, you know, that bothers you, then you would want to be in a well-ventilated area when doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and just replace these little snaps. How sweet is that? Now for care instructions, and I am literally reading what Cricut says. It says you can machine wash inside out with cold water and use a mild detergent, and then you can tumble dry low or line dry, but it wants you to avoid fabric softener, dryer sheets, or bleach. So that is how you use infusible ink on a baby bodysuit or a shirt. It would be the same process if you did an adult size shirt. Okay, a couple reminders. You cannot use just any shirt to do this. You want to make sure that if you don't use a Cricut shirt, that you are using a shirt that has a high polyester count in order for this to work. Another thing I wanted to mention is if you are doing this challenge with us this week and you want to share the project that you do, please be sure to head on over to Instagram if you have an account, use the hashtag Bethadilly Inspired, and that way you can share your project with other people, you can share it with me, and we can encourage you as you are taking this challenge and enjoying getting to know your Cricut a bit more and using new products. Another reminder, and then we're done, is that you don't have to just do shirts with infusible ink. You can do coasters, you can do a tote bag, you can do little makeup bags or little pencil pouches. But again, you want to make sure that what you are using, your blank that you're using, is compatible with infusible ink. Okay? All right, I hope you enjoyed this. I love how this turned out. I think it's so sweet, and I can't wait to continue crafting with you next week. Next week for our challenge, we are going to be doing faux leather, and I have a really, really cute project planned. I hope you get excited because it's going to be a really fun one that I think you'll love. All right, everyone, be sure to give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed crafting with me for this week, and I'll see you next time.